Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader, and I use the amazing Lenormand deck. So have a look at the links that I have for you so you can explore and master this amazing deck. Welcome to a new Pick-A-Card reading. I want to say thank you for all of the wonderful suggestions that I got recently on a survey I ran about what you wanted us to do as a Pick-A-Card reading on the channel. So thanks for this. And today I am going with one of the suggestions, which is what is meant for me now. So what is meant for me now is an interesting question because it does use a timing frame, which is the now. Now, of course, it can't be right now. So I think we should be a little bit more flexible about the time frame and suggest something like, I would say a month or two. And I think the idea also behind this question is what you should focus on as well. So it's not just what is coming to you, but it is also what you're giving and what you're paying attention to. So I think it's going to be helpful to have this kind of guide for this question, what is meant for me now? So have a think about this, have a think about the time frame, and have a think about what is your role to play for attracting what is meant for you now. Just a suggestion, of course, the way you resonate with the question is entirely up to you. So let's look at the mechanics of the Pick-A-Card reading. As you can see, I've got 4 decks and I don't have charms. So what I'm doing today is not a 3D portrait or a 3D line of 7. I'm going to be doing a tableau reading, not a grand tableau, but a diamond layout. A diamond layout is a kind of tableau. It has a lot of tableau features. I also have a free resource for the diamond layout. It is a really nice layout, and there's 3 versions of it, small, medium, large. I'm doing the large one today. So download the resource if you want to try your hand at the diamond. So we've got 4 different decks and we're going to do 4 different diamonds. So you can either choose the Terra Lenormand, which is the floral one. You could choose the Blink of an Eye Lenormand, the Zenn deck, or my own Silhouettes deck. And of course, they're all time-stamped in the description. So tune in, pause the video as you need to decide which deck you're going to use for this reading, and I will see you in your diamond. Okay, welcome to your Terra Lenormand spread. Like I said, we're doing a diamond. The deck is shuffled. It's messy piled shuffled, which is the best kind of shuffling. And we're going to go ahead and deal out your diamond. As you can see, I'm zoomed out because this is a big spread and it sort of goes horizontally. So I'm zoomed out a little bit. Okay, let's deal out this diamond. Okay, here is your diamond spread, and as you know, I'm still experimenting with a few new decks, and I think this is one that turns out well, but I'm gonna still go over the cards just in case you're not sure what they are. You know, there's a bit of a unique artwork here with all of the flower designs here. So in the middle, we have the heart, and backing up to the beginning of the row, we have the letter, the birds, and the heart, the road, and the lily. In the vertical, we have the snake, the whip, the heart, the flowers, and the scythe. And in the portrait, we have the sun, clover, rider, and book. So I think the cards are very beautiful. I think the white background really helps. And I think a lot of the symbols are clear. So let's get into your diamond. As you can see, we have a central portrait and 4 cards on the sides and the top. And then we have a lot of diagonals that we can read. So there's a lot that we can read in a diamond, but you'll see that we sort of, you know, when we go over them, the lines start to repeat themselves. So let's get into this reading. I think it stands out that we have the snake and whip at the top. These are challenging cards, and we have the scythe at the bottom. Now the scythe comes after the flowers, so I'm not sure how challenging it's going to be, but certainly the top 2 are a little bit difficult. And I think that's it in terms of challenging cards. Everything else is either neutral or positive. Let's start with the central row. We have the letter with the bird and heart, crossroads, and lily. So the letter and bird is very much about news. In fact, both cards are about news. So when they come together, they certainly emphasize this. And then we have the heart, which probably makes you happy. And with the bird, I have to say, maybe a bit nervous. The road and lily can be choices. And in fact, the card in the Terra Lenormand specifically specifies it as the crossroad. But I see it as choices or not, depending on the context as well. So because there is a news and an element of opportunity that we see here, and we have the lily on the other side of the road, I have to wonder if maybe you need to make some life decisions. The lily is a broader, bigger card. It affects your life as a whole. It can also affect your career direction. And so with the road, and especially since we have this news element earlier, it seems to me that you get news, you get an opportunity or a choice or options, and you need to make a choice at this point, and I think it affects your life as a whole. So I would say the cards are more or less neutral, but I think the heart brings in an element of feelings and excitement. So I think you could be wanting to make this change. Now, when we look at the vertical, it is very clear that there is a change. The snake and whip are challenging cards, and they can point to something hurtful, a disappointment, an argument. And we see it with the heart and flowers, which really brings up this element of feelings. So it's pretty clear to me that this is bringing up a change and a need to let go, especially since we have the scythe at the bottom. Now, the flowers with the scythe would have normally suggested something like a breakthrough or a release or some kind of freedom. And I think that is still possible, but it certainly comes in the back of some pretty challenging cards here. And we also have them close to the heart, which can point to heartache and disappointments and, difficult feelings. So I think this is going to be key. And I think in terms of answering the question directly, what is meant for you now, I think you are meant to let go of something and let it go. And in view of the middle row, it sounds like you have an opportunity to make a change. So it is up to you. What is meant for you now is to make a choice and a decision. And I think because of the heart at the center of this whole diamond, I think it's going to be key for you to decide how you feel about this and to also go with how you feel. Now, of course, I'm not saying you should not pay attention to your thoughts or your experience or what you know is right, but you also want to tune into what feels good and what feels right, and to go with your gut and your feelings so that you can make the right choice now that you are in a space to let go of a situation. Now, what is that situation? Well, the heart and flowers tend to be more personal feeling kinds of cards. So I have to wonder if it might be something like a personal relationship or a friendship or something that's closer to your heart. But that is also flexible. It could be in another situation. It could be at work, at home, in some other space in your life. But I do think that it affects you in a personal way. I think these cards, they sort of get to you a little bit. The good news is that there is good news, as we see here in the middle row, and now you are at a juncture where you are in a position to have options and make a choice about how you move forward. So that is pretty powerful. Now let's look at this portrait. We have the sun with the whip and rider. So this can speed things up a little bit. The whip and rider tends to bring things quickly. It can be a challenge, but I think the sun being an all-around bright card, it really gives you more optimism. And I think this ties in nicely with the middle row because the rider is also a news kind of card. So I think that you're not going to be dwelling on this too much. You are meant to make a change. You are meant to let go of something and to do something different. So you are in a position of choice. So that's what you need to do. And I think your sun is very bright and it shines a beautiful light on the line, the whole portrait and the whole diamond. We read these cards as part of the middle row, but let's just zoom in on them a little bit as part of the portrait. We have the bird, heart, and road. I think this really brings excitement, and I think you are in for a new path, and you definitely want to go for things that make you happy. And this could be a big change now. Maybe what you were doing was not so joyous, was not totally aligned with you, and now what you're meant to do is to shift a little bit this perspective and focus more on the things that make you happy, or at least happier. Now the bottom row is also lovely. We have the clover with the flowers and book. This could be a surprise in the making, and I say that because even though the book is open here in this illustration, it's at the end of the line, and the book can be a card of mystery. We have the beautiful clover and flowers. These are two of the brightest cards. So you could be in for a very happy surprise. And I think it ties in nicely with the sun. So good things are in the making, even if it doesn't appear this way right now. I think you should change and switch your focus away from the challenge, from the heartache, from the difficulty that we saw here, because you could be turning around pretty quickly. So part of also what is meant for you now is not to dwell on the challenges, instead to shift your focus, because you want to take advantage of the opportunity that is in the making. I have to say, these are also really nice cards for creativity. So if you're up for creativity or doing some interesting projects, you now have the space and the opportunity to do this. So it could be time to express yourself. Now I'm going to leave the diagonals for last. Let's do the rows. Here's another beautiful message. The sun with the bird and clover. And notice that it T-crosses with these cards here. So we have like a mini cross, if you can see it. That's a mini diamond. And actually the large diamond is made up of 4 of them. So the sun with the bird and clover is wonderful news. That's even more powerful than what we saw in the middle row in terms of how good this news is. These are 2 of the brightest cards, and they tie in nicely with the book, because the book can also be a revelation and some kind of news. So this is coming through and through with the cards. They're overlapping, they're repeating the messages. So there's an emphasis on this idea. So do take this away and focus on this wonderful news that could be coming your way. In another sense, you could be the one in a position to express. So maybe you are expressing something, and again, this could be part of this creative venture or creative outlet, whatever it is for you, okay? There's no standards for what it is to be creative. That's up to you. And that is a beautiful message, and certainly an encouragement for you to express yourself. Now, zooming in the middle column here, so I'm going to just take these 2 challenging cards away. We have the whip and flowers on either side of the heart. So actually this is a nice message. Without the scythe, which can be challenging, but not necessarily, the heart and flowers is certainly a sense of renewal. And we see this on the other side of the whip, which is a beautiful message that tells me that you're going to overcome this. And again, I think this ties in nicely with this idea that you do not want to dwell on this situation. You do not want to dwell on this issue, because you could be turning around maybe faster than you think. So if you can have faith and trust the moment, the now, that is part of this question. Let it go, turn around, and switch your focus. Switch your focus to your creativity or other opportunities and other choices you can make in your life. Here is the writer, road, and book. And again, this is being at this juncture. We see this writer at the crossroads, and the book could be an element of the unknown. So you could be moving into an interesting direction. And I really think this is still tying into the need to have faith, to release, because you could be moving into a really interesting direction. So these are some really encouraging cards. And I think that even though we have the snake and whip, which can be a bit heavy-handed, I still think that there's so many nice things going on here that you want to take advantage of them and turn around as much as possible. So you can switch your focus and get busy with something that's more exciting. And certainly that's closer to what you care about and what you want and what's going to make you happy or happier. Now look at these diagonals. They're very, very bright. We have the sun, heart, and book. And this is interesting because the heart and book is normally feelings that are not revealed. So in terms of another person, if that's the situation, there can be a revelation of love or, an admittance to interest and wanting to be with another person, with you. These are possibilities. So there can be another relationship in the making. I can't dismiss this possibility. But the cards here are also really bright for creativity with the sun and book and the element of expression. And it is also a lovely discovery. And again, it ties into this news aspect as well. So there's a few different ways we can read the line, but any way we look at it, it is really bright and reassuring. In the second line, we have the Clover, Heart, and Rider, and these are also wonderful cards for good news, for moving forward, for a sense of enthusiasm, and for gaining momentum. So again, we have a news aspect and a communication aspect that comes in very strongly, and it's recurrent in the different lines, so there's an emphasis on it. But the Rider is also good with moving forward. In fact, it is the type of character that takes things in stride and just gets going on its path. And I think this is very much called for you at this time, very clear through these cards. And I think you're going to do this successfully. I think you will be able to turn around and move on. And in fact, the Scythe at the bottom may well be that. It may not necessarily be a challenging card. It can suggest the release and the freedom that comes with that. So these are some really reassuring cards. Now I want to look at the corners a little bit. In fact, I normally start with the corners. We have the Letter and Lily on the horizontal. And this could be something that's more professional, related to work, or it can affect your life as a whole. So it's a neutral combination that highlights the importance of this news and tells us it can affect your life and direction as a whole. The Snake and Scythe is a challenging pair. This is usually a snake bite. This is when the snake attacks as opposed to being quietly waiting in the grass. And actually, it doesn't add so much to what we saw because we have it with the whip at the top. So it's a confirmation that something hurtful or difficult may have come your way, or you've experienced it. And now you're in a position to reconnect with your inner feelings and your inner life a bit more and make a change, which I think you will do very successfully. Let's also look at the four diamonds here before we look at the outer and inner ones. So we have the bottom diamond that is associated or centered around the flowers. This is great for creativity. When we look at the Clover, Heart, Book, and Scythe, this could be a real release of expression. It could also be unleashing feelings or opening up in some way or other, and I do think it's wonderful. In the top one, we have the whip. So this is the more difficult aspect. We also have the snake, which can challenge it further. But we have the sun, which is a very bright card. And it is powerful, and it is up to the whip. So I really see the sun as helping you overcome this. And with the Heart and Rider, we do have a message of moving on, letting go, and pursuing things that make you happy. The birds on the right, beautiful messages here all around. Sun, Clover, Heart, and the letter emphasizes the bird. So I really have no reason to think why the news would be challenging. We'll look at the inner diamond here and see with the whip what it tells us. And the one on the right, we have the crossroads in the center, and we have the Heart, Rider, Lily, and Book. I really think this could be a life change. This could be an interesting direction that you're moving into. And I do think that you do not know everything about what you're moving into, but the change, the choice, this juncture is key. And I think you're going to have a lot of momentum to pursue it. So some really nice cards. Now let's look at the inner diamond. Inner diamond is the bird with the whip, road, and flowers. So yes, the bird and whip can be challenging, and the whip and road can be challenging, but it's really nice to see the flowers at the bottom because it also ties into these two cards as well. So again, I think you overcome the challenges, and I think maybe the bird in this context is tying in more with the issue that you're overcoming here. But seeing the flowers with these cards really tells us that you're gonna find a sense of momentum again and move ahead and make changes and let this go and leave it behind you. So I think these are really nice cards that tell you that you're gonna find your enthusiasm again and you're gonna move past the issue. And this is definitely what's meant for you to do. It's not meant for you to give this another chance. It's not meant for you to wait on it or to dwell on it. It's meant for you to change course and even completely change course and pursue a lot more creative energies, creative activities. I think even the mindset, is just opening in a different direction altogether. So I think this is really exciting. There's still the outer diamond for us to read. We have the letter sun and snake, rider, lily, book, scythe, and clover. So this is generally very positive. Yes, we have the snake, but it's not with the whip in these lines. Instead, we have it with the sun, which really brightens it and tells us that you're smart and you know what you want. And with the snake and rider, it's more about changing course and just sort of swiveling away and moving on. We have the book with the lily and scythe. This could be a revelation, a breakthrough, and we have the letter, clover, and scythe on this side. Also a breakthrough and a lucky break with the clover coming through this news. So overall, this is a really nice reading. Yes, we do have a couple of challenging cards that create a bit of heaviness, but you're overcoming this, and that's what you're meant to do. You're meant to let it go and move on and embrace something a lot more like it's so open. You know, the sun with the clover flowers and the book and scythe, there's like a unleashing something. So maybe this situation has kept you stuck or restricted or limited in certain ways. And what we see in the other cards is so free and so unleashing and so creative and bright that I don't think you should waste any time dwelling on this, whatever happened here. Now, I also want to add that the cards are not bringing up people so much. You know, maybe the rider, the snake sometimes. It seems to be focused on you, your energies, and what you're opening up to. But I have to say that in case this is about a personal relationship or some other commitment in your life, you could land on someone different. You could meet someone else. You could also connect with another situation, and I'm thinking maybe work. Now, these are not really work cards, but just in case you want to resonate with work, then, you know, whatever the issue, you can let it go, and that you could be surprised at what good could come to you work-wise, relationship-wise, or in any other area. So, very beautiful diamond. There's a lot in here. You know, these creative energies, you know, it could be a lot that needs to come out as you move forward. And I hope you'll be able to do this in whatever way works for you, all in one go or gradually, you know, that's up to you. But you do not want to restrict yourself. You want to express your creativity. You want to release whatever limitations are holding you back and just embrace what is close to your heart and makes you happy. And that is what is meant for you now. Let me know what you make of this amazing spread. I love the cards. I love the whole dynamic of it. I hope you feel the same way. I look forward to your thoughts about this. Very best of luck with this. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, as always, take very good care of yourself. Okay, welcome to your reading with the Blink of an Eye deck. You will notice that this deck has words or keywords written on them. They're pretty intuitive, but there's a lot more in a card. So don't worry too much about them. I like the design so much that, you know, it's easy for me to not focus on the keyword. And I think you'll find that as well. Also, since they're so, you know, they're sort of general, they really don't affect or skew anything. So let's get into your diamond. I'm doing a large one. Let's deal it out and see what is meant for you now. Okay, here is your diamond, and it is looking pretty positive in general. There's a lot of neutral cards, but we do have quite a lot of messages for abundance, like with the fish and flowers, and there's the heart and anchor, and there seems to be a focus on relationships. Now, in the center of your diamond, we have the garden, and the garden is a card of community, of connections, and of being part of a group. And we also have the ring with it right at the top, so I think this is going to emphasize relationships. And on top of this, we have the dog at the bottom. So relationships are key, they're central. And they could be a few of them, or maybe one specifically, or perhaps it's your community at large. It depends on your specifics. So let's go ahead and weave these lines, starting with the middle row here. We have the heart with the bird and garden, and then the mountain and flowers. So this is actually quite a beautiful line because it ends with the flowers, and it's nice to see it on the other side of the mountain, which is sometimes an obstacle, but it could also represent a place abroad. And because we have the card of place, which is the garden, it is possible that there is a reference to a physical place. Now earlier we have the heart and bird and the bird and garden. So I think this is lovely for activity, for networking, for going out and being with people. And I do think that the heart and bird, it can be a bit anxious, but on the flip side, it could be exciting. And because we have the flowers on the other side here, I do think that you're able to overcome whatever blockages or shyness maybe, or being stuck. You're able to overcome this and connect with others. Also, you could be connecting with people in a different location or possibly online. And another thing that could be going on through this line is that you are back in touch with certain people or a certain space or a certain environment. So this could be quite exciting, and you could come back together with some folks, or just enjoy some time with others and connecting with others. So in terms of connecting this directly with the question that we're asking, what is meant for you now? It's very clear that you are meant to get out of your comfort zone, and you're meant to be with people, go out and seek connection. This could also apply in different contexts of your life. So it could be personal in your social life, it could be work related, or it could be in some other context. But the idea is that you need to put yourself out there. You need to get out there and you need to connect with people. Now in the column here, we have even more relationship cards. We have the house, which can be home and family, the ring, which is usually about commitments and being with others, the garden, like we said, and the dog at the bottom. So really, these 4 cards are very much focused on people. We have the book here, which can be a card of the unknown. It is also a card of knowledge. Now, the fact that we have the dog on the other side tells me that you could meet someone, or you could make some new friends. And with the house, ring, and garden, this can go in a couple of different ways. The house is sometimes an inner card. As you can see, it says private life, so it is more private, definitely more than the garden, which is more public. So this line could be telling us that you need to get out of your comfort, or the comfort of your privacy, and to go out and mix and mingle, which is also what we saw in the middle row. So I think these cards are on point, and they are supporting each other. And these are the 2 big lines of the diamond. So this is going to be the significant messages from your diamond. So I suggest you get out, you meet people, and you could make some new connections. I think it seems to me to be more social, but if not, you could still be making some good connections for whatever context in your life. So very clear from the get-go, the focus on you is people, is externalizing yourself. Let's go ahead and read the portrait. So starting with the top row, we have the letter with the ring and tree. This is lovely for a contract. This is great for an agreement, and of course for communication. The tree tells us that this could be an evolving situation, or one that is growing. And usually the letter and tree points to some really good news. So this could be a contract or an agreement that you get. And maybe that's why you are socializing. Like we said, it can be professional. If this is professional, then you could definitely get something positive out of it, at least some leads. But also the tree is a bit slower. So you want to take your time with this. It's not, maybe things aren't going to happen overnight, or the agreement isn't done overnight. And another message that could come from the tree is that you want to think about it. So don't be quick to say yes, no, just, sit on it a while and consider, what the opportunity is, or what the agreement is, what it entails, things like that. In terms of personal relationships, these are still lovely cards. I think you could be dating, or you could be deepening a connection with someone. In all cases, the tree asks you to be, a bit slower with it and take your time with it. Now let's take these 2 cards a little bit away from the portrait. So let's focus on the 3 in here. The bird with the garden and mountain, it can suggest a place abroad, because the mountain is often a card of the abroad. And with the bird, maybe there's a trip. It's not the main card of travel, but it can suggest some trips, usually shorter trips. It can also be a place online, and maybe you're connecting with some people. Now, the mountain can also sometimes represent an obstacle. So here you could feel like some things are stuck, or maybe you've reached a point where you are stuck. And that's definitely what you want to overcome. You want to get out and get unstuck and connect with others more freely, more openly, And when we look at the, the whole row here, it certainly looks like you're gonna successfully do that. In the bottom row, we have the anchor with the book and fish. These are great cards for money. You could get some kind of deal. You could get a contract like we saw with the top here, except here we have the fish card, which is a card of money. So you could be in for a deal. You could be in for an opportunity, but I have to say that because the book tends to be closed and unknown, this is definitely something that you want to research more. And this again aligns with the top line where the tree told us to slow down a little bit. So I'm seeing that there are lots of potentially good benefits that could come out from you socializing, connecting, networking, being with others. Now, in case of a personal relationship, the fish is more on the physical side. And I have to wonder, with the anchor and book, this is to me a bit more of a restriction, if you like. There's a bit more of a boundary here. So maybe this is a suggestion for you not to get physical, as it were, so quickly, or to wait a little bit and to sort of, conserve yourself a little bit, conserve your energy a little bit, maybe at the outset. So some interesting cards, and also they bring blessings. Now, the letter with the bird and anchor is great for news and conclusions, arriving to an understanding. And again, I'm seeing that there could be a lot of benefits coming out from this interaction and this socializing. You could meet people, you could get support, you could arrive at answers for questions that you have. So really good. The ring with the garden and book. So let's move a little bit the top and bottom card to focus more on the central ones. So the ring and garden is very much a relationship or a connection, and the book can mean that there are still some unknown factors. So you are, getting involved, and you'll see what comes out of it. And we saw with the bottom card that you can meet people, but also the book T crosses the bottom row, and we'll get to the individual diamonds here, the smaller diamonds. We have 4 of them in a bit. So you definitely want to engage. You want to get involved, and even if you don't know exactly what will come out of it, that is fine. Another way we can read this line, and this occurred to me as well, is that the book and garden can point to some kind of an educational environment, some kind of learning space. So maybe you are, in a situation where you want to learn more, you want to explore more. That too is definitely encouraged. So this is pretty much a neutral line. Moving on to the right column, we have the tree with the mountain and fish. These are great cards for money. The tree and fish certainly are. The mountain can create a bit of an obstacle in between, or a bit of a blockage, but I don't think it's a huge deal. I think it's more about this waiting that we see with the book, the tree, and now the mountain. So slowing down. So I think you're going to get a lot of benefits from this, but I don't think you should act on it immediately. Okay, you should hang in there a little bit, let it sit, figure things out. The mountain can also suggest a place abroad, and I'm wondering here with the tree, maybe you are putting some roots down or exploring some options in a different place, and they seem to affect your finances. So that too is a possibility. So these are mostly neutral cards, but they do focus on this element of connecting and the benefits that could come from connecting, but also slowing down and not being too quick. Now, looking at the diagonals, we have the letter with the garden and fish. This is a more direct suggestion of work, business, and offer, because the fish and garden is often the marketplace, the market, a job, a work environment, and things like that. And with the letter, you could get either an offer or you could get leads. You could also be promoting your work and things like that. So really good for work, business, because it's really broadening your options. Now, in terms of a personal relationship, like I said, the fish tends to be a bit more physical, and it sounds like you could have a really good connection here and that there's interaction. The anchor with the garden and tree, a very nice combination for suggesting security and a sense of stability within this environment. Now, I have to say that this too is a key message from your diamond. And let's, bringing it back to the question. The question is, What is meant for you now? Well, a lot of these cards are clearly connecting you to a space and environment. And we're not seeing any cards of change, okay? There's no road, there's no scythe, there's no whip, there's no snake, there's no clouds that brings up doubts. It is very clear to me that you are meant to stick with the current situation. This space, this group of people, this community, whatever it is specifically for you, you need to stick with it and give it time. And I do think that there's going to be benefits that come out of it. So that's what you're meant to do. You're meant to stick with it, and you're meant to connect with the people in there, meet people, see what you get, take your time, and enjoy the process. The anchor and tree on either side of the garden, very anchored, very stable within this environment. And this could be a job, this could be your home, this could be where you live, you know, the circumstance of your life or different areas in your life. And the message is very clear. I have to say, it's very clear. You need to stick with the current situation. So lovely cards with a lot of helpful insights, I have to say. So that's for the portrait. Let's look at the corners. I normally start with the corners, but for some reason, so far I haven't. The heart and flowers. These are beautiful cards, beautiful pair. That bring happiness and all around enthusiasm and hopefulness. Nice cards for creativity as well. And I have to say, in terms of relationships, they're great for flirting. So if you're up for this, you know, it could be the case. The house with the dog, another one on relationships. This could be close friends, family friends, or a family, you know, because the dog tends to be people who are, you know, on that level with you. So again, the focus on people and maybe being with people, maybe inviting people over, you know, all of these nice activities with others. So there's a clear focus, yeah, on relationship and maybe love. But again, it can be a work or something else. And in this case, creativity and options and opportunity are definitely on the table. Now we can read the inner and outer diamond, but before we get there, let's look at the small diamonds. So we have, if you can see them, we have 4 small diamonds, and this is also in the free resource, I think, where, you know, we talk about the different sizes. So there's a central card in each of these small diamonds. So starting with the bottom one, we have the book, and the book is about knowledge or the unknown. We have around the book, same idea. We've got the anchor and fish, we've got the garden and dog, and we can also tie them in this way. I really think you're going to meet people who can give you financial support or give you financial opportunities. They could also be customers if you're in business for yourself, for example. And the thing about the book in here is that you need to learn, you need to gather information. This is still in the research phase. I have to add that if you write, research, teach, do any of these things related to books, this could be a great opportunity. You could actually expand. And like I said, you know, there's a creative energy. So even if it's not, you know, reading, writing, and research and all of those book-specific activities, we can stretch the meaning a little bit and suggest creativity as a whole. And I really think this is an opportunity for you to expand and, you know, be out there. So this is definitely what's meant for you. Now in the top diamond, we have the ring in the center. And again, you know, letter and house and tree and garden, all of these are pointing to connections, contracts, close relationships, and growing relationships. So it's a bit similar to what we read so far because, you know, both these cards are relationship cards. The diamond on the left, we have the bird in the center, also a communication card. And with the heart, letter, garden, and anchor, I think you will get positive feedback. I think you need to reach out, and I think you will, you know, it will support you and your progress. So again, same ideas are coming through. The one on the right is the one with the mountain. It's potentially an obstacle card. We have the garden, tree, clover, and fish. And on the left, we have the one around the mountain. The mountain is sometimes an obstacle card, but around it we have some bright cards. We have the garden, the tree, the flowers, and the fish. And these are great cards for abundance, I have to say. This could be growing your income, finding opportunities, getting a job, or expanding your business, or just your network in general, and also having a good time with others. So in terms of the mountain, I really don't think that it's going to be that challenging. If it is challenging, I think you're able to overcome this. It might take a bit of time for you to get unstuck. Maybe you're shy or you're holding back, but we certainly see that you're able to overcome this. And in terms of the mountain being a place abroad, I think you could be expanding. Again, that sounds like it's part of your expansion, your outreach, and the opportunities that is going to bring. So really nice cards and very clear. You know, the messages are clear. This is all about reaching out and networking and connecting with others. It looks like it's going to bring a lot, possibly across different areas of your life simultaneously, and not necessarily just in one area. So let's wrap up with the diamonds. We have one inside and one outside, which is the bigger one. So the bird with the ring, mountain, and book, I think you could be making connections with people and environments that you haven't before. And honestly, I think that's part of the goal. The goal, what is meant for you now, is to get out of your comfort zone and to reach out. And with this comes new relationships and new opportunities. So you definitely want to reach out and get unstuck, overcome whatever limitations you have and just reach out. And you need to do some digging. So you're reaching out because you need information, you need knowledge, you need to expand. So for this, you need people. In the outer diamond, we have the house with the letter and the heart with the letter and house with the tree and flowers. And in the bottom, we have the anchor with the dog and fish. So these are really great cards. They really focus on an offer, an opportunity. I think getting customers, getting some kind of engagement of sorts, and agreements are in the cards very clearly. With the heart, letter, and house, this is happy news. With the tree and flowers, it blooms. And with the anchor, dog, and fish, you are making some strong connections here that have the potential of bringing you income. Now, like I said, if this is personal, it's still a really bright combination or set of cards because it brings you closer to someone, and looks like there's a growing and a strong connection, and there is a strong physical aspect, with the privacy and the abundance here with the fish, and with the flowers and heart and anchor. It's just all around really nice messages here for whatever area of your life. So I have to say, this is a lovely diamond. It brings clear messages. There's a lot of neutral cards, but when you put them together, they're exciting. They tell us that your focus is community, people, outreach, being with others, investing in others, and meeting people, and definitely getting out of your current circle, your current boundaries, and bringing out, coming out to bring in more relationships and connections into your life. You're very likely to meet new people. And you're also very likely to find outlets for your work and your projects and your activities. And in terms of personal relationships, these can be pretty fulfilling as well. You could, meet someone or get closer to someone. And if you're already in a relationship, you could definitely enjoy some really good times. So very focused on people, very externalized, all about expanding that social circle and your network. I hope you'll take this up and let's see what comes out of it. Let me know how you resonated with these lovely cards. As always, I look forward to your thoughts and feedback. Thank you very much for tuning in, and until next time, take very good care of yourself. Okay, let's do the reading with the Zenn deck. Let us deal out this diamond and see what is meant for you now at this time, or very shortly, or shortly. Okay, here is your diamond, and there are a couple of, actually more than a couple, some really good cards here. We have the key, the star, and the clover. These are very lucky cards. We do have the snake and fox together. This is often a tricky combination, really bringing out the deceptive aspects of each of the cards. And we have a relationship. We have the woman between the garden and house. So this clearly brings into focus a relationship. Now, the house in the middle of this diamond, really bringing home the idea of home and family, or your base, your sense of foundation. It can represent another space in your life, but I feel that for the sake of such a reading, I think this is really turning your focus on what you consider to be your foundation or your base in life. And so we're going to read this house firstly with this row. Now we have the snake in the line, which can bring up something tricky. We have the garden with the woman and house, and then the snake and bear. So this can point to a meeting, or perhaps this is someone who is maybe living with you or who's pretty close to you. But I have to say that with the snake and bear, there can be a deception, and possibly a major one. It's possibly also not so dramatic. It can mean that you are moving away from this person. Maybe you want to move homes, or you want to leave, or at least make deep changes in this situation. And clearly this involves this person. So maybe the issue is with her, or perhaps you're getting busy with something, or you want to make changes in your life and you want to move away from this situation with this person. I have to say that the garden and house on either side of the woman, they can suggest that you have a conversation with her. But because of the snake and bear, I'm not so sure that you arrive to any good conclusion or a good understanding. We're going to read more cards, but I think that there can be a major change through the snake and bear. I also want to warn you against competition and people playing against you because of the snake and bear. The bear can be a card of competition and dominance. And with the snake and fox, both of them are adjacent to the bear. They can warn you against someone who's trying to play against you, or someone who's trying to deceive you. So I think it's really important that you be aware of this. Now, looking at the column, we have the mountain with the road and house, and then the bird and dog. So the dog is actually another card of relationships. It often represents a friend. And earlier, we do see this idea of a move as well through the road and house. With the mountain, it could be either this place is in another location, or perhaps you're the one who's moving to another location. And the bird and dog brings up a conversation with this person. So this confirms what I suggested here, that maybe a meeting or a conversation with this person is at hand. And it seems to me that this conversation is about changes and moves that you want to make. And so you have to talk to maybe one person or a few people that can be affected by your move and your change. I have to say, though, that it might be the right thing for you to do. We're going to read more cards, but obviously with this house in the middle of the diamond and these movement cards and the issues that come through the fox and snake, I have to wonder if maybe it might be the right time for you to at least reassess your foundation, your living situation, or whatever other sort of base you have in your life. For some people, it can be the job. It can be things we work at in our life, not necessarily where we live, but that's up to you to define. The house is that foundation, and I think that's clearly what is coming into focus at this time. Now let's look at the portrait. We have the key, road, and fox at the top. So again, the key is a card of success, all around success. It's very bright, it's very smart. It is also a card that unlocks opportunity. And with the fox, we could be looking at a job, because the fox is a card of employment, but also there is a bit like the snake, this wanting to just do your own thing. The fox is self-interested and, also selfish, and the snake is like that as well. But on the flip side, it does call you to focus on yourself more and to be a bit more, to put yourself first in some situations. So this could be the case here. And with the road, there is that element of wanting to go off and do your own thing. I have to say that with the key being a card of success, this could be a message that it is the right thing for you to do to move on. It could be moving on from this situation here that we're seeing with the house and the woman, and it could be a situation at the job. It could be all of it together. It could be all of these different levels that you're working through. But I think it might be time to take care of number one and move on. Now let's put these cards a little bit to the side and focus on this triplet. We have the woman, house, and snake, and this could be pretty difficult because there can be some toxic energies within this environment. And really, if we add the bear, it just contributes to that further. So I think you could be moving away from this overall toxic situation, and it's definitely a set of cards that warns you against people who are doing things behind your back or who pretend to be nice, who are not, and toxic energies like that. The snake also calls for secrecy, and actually so does the fox. These are cards of discretion, more so the snake than the fox. But if your changes, your moves, and your strategy, you want to keep it to yourself, at least for some time, at least until you can actually act on it. But I'm seeing a turning point here for you. Now moving on to the third row at the bottom, we have the star with the bird and clover. So this is a very bright combination. And this is, I think, the green light and the good news and the positive feedback that you need in order to make the changes that you want. I also think that a conversation could go well. So maybe clarifying matters with this person, having conversation with the people within the house, it can bring answers, it can highlight things, and it can help you make a decision better. So I think this is a very relieving set of cards in view of the more difficult ideas that we saw here. So this can be pretty relieving, and I think you'll find that if you express yourself, if you make your point, things can turn around, or at least you can feel relief and you'll be able to act on this. This is also news of wish fulfillment and all around well-being and healing. Let's move on to the rows, the columns, I mean. We have the key, woman, and star. So this is actually a really nice combination. It ties into this good news that we saw at the bottom. So again, there can be some, like we said, there are some issues and toxic energies around here, but it doesn't mean that if you have a conversation, you can't reach a conclusion or get some good insights or have feedback that is helpful for you to take an action. So very supportive here. I also think that it could represent other people. So when we read people cards in different lines, often the question is it the same person in all of the lines? Well, not necessarily. It depends on what you're seeing in the cards. So in this case, I think it can represent another person, because obviously this is someone who's really supportive, who can open a door for you and help you move forward. You could get an offer, you could get the green light, like I said, or some kind of opportunity opened up for you so that you can make these changes and move on. The road with the house and bird, another message of a move. We saw this as part of the column anyway. And with the bird, there can be a conversation about this or some kind of announcement. So if we just focus on these three. I often take the house and bird to suggest an announcement of sorts. And with the road, maybe this is where you announce that you're leaving or that there are changes in this environment. It is also another call for a conversation, trying to bring things together, bringing things on the same page. And like we saw with the bottom row, this pays off rather well. So again, the need to be vocal. And I would say also to balance it with the silence that we see in the cards, because these are some pretty silent cards. So it's going to call for balance. Now, the fox with the snake and clover is a reassuring message. These are challenging cards, but with the clover, it helps you turn this around. I think you are going to know who is trying to work against you or what the issues are. It's like you are aware what's going on behind the scenes. I also think this is a message of protection. So that is really good to see, especially since we have the bear, next to the snake, which can aggravate the snake in addition to the fox. So it's an interesting spread. I think it's putting into question where you live, your foundation, what you're invested in. And I think you're looking to make changes. A few reasons why. There can be issues where you are, but you could also get an opportunity to make a change, and that's what you want. And I think you're going to take advantage of this and make that change. But I also think that the transition could be a bit sensitive and, not so straightforward to manage. It sounds like there are people and stakeholders and others involved in this place, in this space, and you need to take certain things into consideration when you make this move. Now, here's an interesting diagonal. We have the key, house, and clover. I have to say this can bring up real estate and real estate transactions, buying, selling, rent, and these sorts of things in relation to the house. And if that's the case, with the clover, it goes really well. So you could get a really good deal here, and that could be part of, the change that you're going through. But in another sense, and probably more generally, The key and house gives you access into a certain environment, so you could get an opportunity, get your foot in the door with something, and it could prove really beneficial for you. Sort of similar in the second diagonal, where we have the star and house along with the fox. The star is one of the brightest cards of the deck. It is a card of wish fulfillment, and the house and fox can bring, you know, a bit of a warning and maybe warn you against something to be too good to be true. But it is also a card of work, so if you get a job or a project, it can work out nicely. And again, this could tie into, you know, what you're doing here with this opportunity that is brought by the woman. So there are some bright cards, and I really think that there is an emphasis on work because of the key and house, the fox and bear. You know, the fox can be an employee, the bear can be a boss, and the dog can be an employee. You know, so there's a few cards that could point the direction towards your work and, you know, where you invest yourself. But again, it's not necessary, and of course it can bring up this foundation, your base, like we said at the outset. Now, before we read the diamonds, inner and outer, I want to focus a little bit on the small diamonds. As you can see, we have, okay, so there's a few more things we can read in here. The corner cards, I usually start with the corner cards, but for some reason in this pick-a-card reading, I'm not really attracted to doing that. We have the garden and bear. This can bring up important people, people of influence, maybe bosses, managers, and others like that. In the context here, I'm wondering if you might confront something or someone, or you might have to stand up to a situation and take up space in a certain environment, you know, like to establish yourself. I think this ties into this idea of your foundations here, where you stand. But it is also a good combination for meeting helpful people, supportive people, probably some of those who support you with the opportunity, or like I said, perhaps you are stepping up to something. The dog and mountain, these are the corner cards along the column. It can represent someone whom you know in another location, or connections abroad or online who could be supporting you with the changes, or they could be part of the problem, because the mountain is sometimes an obstacle. It's sort of like a bear, you know, someone standing in your face, if you like, especially with a challenging card. The mountain by itself can be a bit challenging. So with the dog, and especially since we have, you know, some of these deceptive energies like the fox and snake, you know, it could sort of pull the mountain into this direction further. But I have to say that people seem to be key in your whole situation. I'm not seeing the warmest of relationships, okay? Let's be clear about that. But there are still people you are having conversations with, talking to, consulting with, and they seem to be supportive of you in some way. So I'm not seeing love, romance, and these warm feelings, friendships. It seems to be more about people who help you with, you know, your ambitions, your goals, and also people you need to speak with, just because they're part of this situation that is, I think, shifting. Okay, now before we read the outer and inner diamonds, let's focus on these 4 mini diamonds. So you'll see this in the download, the resource, where we break down the diamond into these ways. And also this is a mini diamond, so if you're new to doing such a big layout, you might start with a small one. So we have a cross around the birds, around the road, woman, and snake. I think you can see that, right? So the bird has some lovely cards around it. We have the dog, house, star, and clover. Conversation goes really well. Okay, so don't hold back. Maybe you were holding back because of the mountain, fox, and snake, but I think given the right time, I think you'll have a fruitful and productive conversation. What about the one at the top? We have the road and we have the key, house with the mountain and fox. I think you could be, a move is possible, but also a job is possible. Other opportunities and projects are possible. And I think the mountain can mean either, you know, both possibilities. Either you overcome an obstacle or a roadblock in this way, or it has to do with an opportunity in a different location. These are possible. It seems to me you could take this up, but again, the fox, you know, especially on the right-hand side, it might ask you to be strategic, and to be, trying to have foresight as you move forward as much as possible. I also want to say, if you're doubting anything, then honor that doubt. I think we see this in the snake, around the snake. Let's get to the woman first. Very nice cards around the woman: garden, star, house, and key. Honestly, this could be a real estate transaction or some other positive things happening with your real estate or other assets that you have. More generally, this is definitely an opportunity. I think this woman helps you get to it. You could be meeting with her, and like we saw in this column of the portrait. So very positive with this woman. This is the trickier one, and I have to say it's on the right-hand side. So the cards that are on the right-hand side tend to be associated with outcomes and future aspects. Not always, but it can be. And so it's always worth like checking in, with the flow of things. So we have the snake in the middle and fox, bear, house, and clover. So again, I have to say that this combination, the top one here, this is a bit on the difficult side. This could be people working against you, like we saw in the row and in the column. So this is definitely worth being careful of. You don't want to be gullible. Don't take things at face value, even the offers and the opportunities that could be coming your way. In fact, this could very well be a warning not to be too given to the bright things happening here. There can be a flip side. There can be hidden elements. Maybe if it's too good to be true, it is, and things like that. So just be aware of that. At the same time, we have the beautiful clover, which tells us that you're protected. So even if there's an issue here, if there is something that is not right in this, in this offer or situation or opportunity that we see here, I think you're going to be able to see through it, and you're not going to fall for the wrong things. So this is helpful, certainly, with the clover. I also can suggest that maybe this is you, okay? Maybe you are the snake and fox and bear. You are wanting to turn away and make a change. And we saw this a few times already. Now, I think you are going to make a change, but I think for the time being, it seems to me that it's more on the assessment phase. There seems to be a lot of moving parts. Maybe opportunities need to come through. Relationships need to come through. Certain changes need to fit and things like that. It seems to be like a layered situation here. And I think this is faithful to the cards. So when it comes to you moving, wanting to do something different, wanting to change or, shift your foundations here, I think your strategy you need to keep it to yourself for some time. Okay, you need to have a good strategy. You certainly don't want to share it with everyone. And if you are going to do that, you need to be really clear about who you're sharing it with. So I just want to put this out there because I don't want you to act too quickly or speak too quickly. Okay, so it's a slower unfolding here. Now let's wrap up with the inner and outer diamond. So the inner diamond, we have the woman, road, snake, and bird. So again, there is a move, a turning away, and certainly with the bird and snake, woman and bird, you want to be careful about what you share with whom. And like I said, they don't have to be the same people. So someone who's giving you this opportunity or helping you with something is not necessarily the person you have to deal with when you take on this opportunity and make the change. I think the change is a bit deeper, because the house is your foundation, maybe your home. So it can be a bit, it's a bit tricky to manage. The outer diamond, we have the garden, key, mountain, fox, and bear. And in the bottom, we have some really bright cards. We have the clover and star on either side of the dog. I have to say, this is really a combination that can suggest something like a promotion or a new job or some kind of, improvement and step up for you. I think the fox and bear can also ask you to be respectful of the chain of command, certain people and things like that, but it could also refer to your promotion, like you go from a more like employee level to someone who's a bit more like boss level. And then we have the star and clover on either side of the dog, which again can represent an employee. So there's a lot of cards here and combinations that suggest that maybe you're getting a promotion or you're pursuing some kind of improvement in your life. This is great. And these are lovely cards in any context, actually, not just in terms of work. I just want to say that with the fox and bear, again, there is this need to balance out a communication or certain involvements or, certain people in your life as you take advantage of this opportunity. And also when you do, don't be quick to take your time getting to know the folks in this opportunity or this environment, because maybe they're not all what they seem to be. And, if this is new, if these are people you're in a situation you're still getting to know, you're new to it, then all the more reason to take your time. But it's clear that there is an opportunity. I mean, this is where we have the key, the star, and clover all together. So these are some bright cards that bring opportunity. So step into it and move towards that. But I have to say that the transition seems to be pretty tricky. So this is what's meant for you at this time. What's meant for you is to undergo a change, and probably a deeper change, one that likely affects your foundation, possibly your work, and such important areas in your life. I think relationships come into picture, but not like the one-on-one relationships. I'm not seeing that so much. I think this is more about turning towards your goals, your interests, putting yourself first. And also it sounds like you're extracting yourself from the situation, and you could be shifting in deep ways. So some people support, some people are not so supportive. You have to manage that. Some conversations need to be had. Other things you want to be silent about. You have to manage that. And you also have to have a strategy for the transition. But I think this is underway. But I'm not seeing that you go for it in full force just yet. This is more like putting together the strategy. So keep this in mind and be patient as you shift your base into something hopefully more empowering. I have to say this is quite layered. I hope you resonate with this in positive ways, and you're gonna step into your power to make the changes that you want to make, and have a 360 view is going to be helpful for you to manage all of these layers. Let me know what you make of this. This is quite a reading, I have to say. I look forward to your feedback, your thoughts. Thank you as always for tuning in. Very best of luck, and until next time, take very good care of yourself. Okay, welcome to the Silhouette deck reading. We are doing this large diamond, to see what is meant for you now. And like I said in the introduction, you want to tune into how long this period of now is for you, and how you're going to resonate with this diamond. So let's go ahead and deal it out and see what is meant for you at this time. Okay, here is your diamond, and what stands out in this beautiful diamond is the sun in the center of all of it. The sun is one of the brightest cards of the deck. This is all about wish fulfillment, well-being, healing across the board. So I think we can confidently say, because the sun figures in this central position, that what is meant for you now is a whole lot of positivity and wish fulfillment in different areas. What also stands out is the fish, which is a card of money and abundance, and the woman, which is a card of people, along with the ring. So it looks like there are relationships, and there are finances or business-related, work-related areas that come into focus. So let's go ahead and weave these lines. Starting with the row, the central row, we have the cross, fish, and sun with the ring and ship. So this is a really good message for financial success. I think with the cross, it can go in a couple of different ways. It can mean that you have certain responsibilities and you need to improve your approach with money, but it can also mean that you are meant for success, because the cross is also a card of things that are meant to be, not just responsibilities and sometimes even burdens. So it can go in both ways, and it could work out simultaneously as well. They're not contradictory. The fish and sun is all around abundance, and the sun and ring is great for relationships, and the ship can mean sales, trade, other activities, projects, and ambitions. So you could be going through a lot of success, and you could be moving forward with projects that pay off rather nicely. In case this is about a personal relationship, I think this works out really nicely as well. Obviously, the sun is so positive in so many different ways. I have to add though that when it comes to relationships, personal relationships, the fish is more on the physical side, or it can be part of it. So it can be a very fulfilling kind of relationship in this sense. But there are lots of positive energies here. The ship is also a card of travel. We also have the road and anchor. So I don't know if, and the rider can be also about movements. So maybe you are engaged in some ventures or you're going places, and all of this is part of the success that we see through these cards. But it's a really beautiful line for prosperity, abundance, making positive connections, committing to your projects and your goals and seeing them pay off. Very beautiful. Now the anchor with the tree, sun, rider, and woman. Also a very beautiful set of cards. The anchor and tree are very solid, so they are anchored and still, which is different from the road and ship, almost opposite. The sun is beautiful with these cards because we see that your effort and your discipline and your commitment pays off. The rider and woman is a messenger or a news bearer, and there can be some good news that comes through or about this person. And it can also suggest that you have activity or like projects going with this woman who really contributes to your overall success. Also great cards for relationships where there is progress. So we have relationships in both both central lines, and in the middle row, in the central row, we have the fish, which is about prosperity. So these are really good cards. It's very clear to me that you are on the right track. Or if you're not, you don't feel you are, you will be. And this is probably one of the key messages for you, is to have faith in your path and to align with it. And I would also say working, doing the work, putting in the work, the effort, because it's going to pay off. Very beautiful lines, mainly thanks to the beautiful sun in the middle. Let's look at the portrait. So the portrait is, as you can see, we take out these these corner cards, which I'll get to in a bit, and we've got a portrait. So the road with the tree and book is great for knowledge and growth and wisdom. You could be pursuing certain unknown things. Maybe you're delving into a certain topic. It's a really good triplet for personal growth and development. There can also be some unknown factors. So maybe as you pursue your path, your ambitions, you go after your goals, you're still working some things out and you don't have, knowledge of everything, which is fine. And certainly with the tree, it encourages you to pick up some knowledge and to research. These are great cards also for if you read, write, teach, everything related to books. But also if we stretch that a bit, it can also suggest creativity and giving yourself elbow room to explore these topics. The fish, sun, and ring, which we read as part of the middle central row, these are lovely cards for connections, relationships, and success. I think with the fish and ring together, we could be looking at collaborations, business partnerships, colleagues or customers, these sorts of relationships that support your growth, your business, and this kind of success. But like I said earlier, if this is about a personal relationship, then first of all, it's a really positive one. And second, it could have a strong physical attraction and physical connection here. The rider between the letter and mouse is the only challenging line, and that's because of the mouse. The mouse can be a bit of an annoyance kind of card. It's not a huge deal. It's not a very challenging card. It is somewhat challenging. And what it does is it brings little bumps, annoyances, little issues going wrong here and there. With the letter and rider, both cards are messenger cards, news cards. There can be maybe a bit of bad news or perhaps incomplete news, some misinformation, gaps like that. And so this is what needs to be rectified, probably, with the book, and this is going to tie into the mouse. And it can also suggest issues that you need to solve as you go. And I think this comes through here as well. So it can create a few bumps on the way of the rider and on the way of the ship, as we're going to see in the outer diamond. And actually it does here as well. But again, the little problems that come up with the mouse are not huge. I think they are, part of the process. They could also be things like growing pains or the day-to-day annoyances that you need to deal with, as you grow your business, as you grow the relationship, the things that you figure out. So I think it is really sized down. In the first diagonal, we have the road, sun, and mouse. And the mouse, coming after the sun might cause, a bit of issues here and there. But again, the sun is really strong in terms of how positive it is. And the mouse is not as strong as the sun in terms of how negative it is. So again, little issues, deal with them, no big deal. We have the letter and book on either side of the sun. And this points to some important news. And it can be quite significant for you. So, and it can come a bit fast. Usually with the letter and book, it might come unexpectedly or, but the timing thing is not as important as the significance of the news. And so with the sun, there's definitely some beautiful news. I think there are opportunities, and again, all of, this stuff that is contributing to your prosperity and your ambitions. So these are some really nice messages in here. Now, before we get into the individual diamonds, as you can see, we have smaller diamonds, and this is in the free resource if you want to download that, how to read the diamond. The mini diamond is the simple cross here, and then you put 4 together and you get this diamond. So it's always nice to zoom into them. There's 4 of them: the rider, ring, tree, and fish, and the diamond around that. So before we get to that, let's just have a look at the corner cards. I normally start with these, but in this reading, for some reason, I'm not starting with these. We have the cross and ship. This is quite a message. This could be an important journey that is happening for you. It could be a matter of destiny. It could be a direction that you are going to take, and that is pretty important to not just your work, your business, but I think your life path as well. You could also be making some big decisions in terms of what direction you take. So I think this could be quite a big deal. We have the woman and anchor. This is great for a relationship. This points to a supportive relationship and someone you can rely on. And she could also be, part of your prosperity, a customer, partner, or she could be, your relationship. So a supportive person in here. Now let's look at these small diamonds. So the one at the bottom has the rider, and this is a messenger card. It's also a great card for progress. Now we have a lot of good cards here, good news, support, input, etc. But the mouse, especially on the right hand side, it slows things down a little bit, and so expect that it's going to happen. There's a lot of momentum, a lot of positive cards, but the day-to-day still has its issues. So just be aware of that. And also, I want to suggest that if you get a proposal, which is what we see through the book and ring, and the letter and rider as well, the mouse can suggest that it's not ideal. And the fact that it's in this corner tells me that possibly this is tangential or a bit aside from the main stuff that you're doing. So I just want to put it out there as a possibility that don't be distracted by offers here and there. Focus on your goals and be clear about what any agreement entails, okay? This is important. I'm not saying you turn it down. Like I said, the mouse is not a huge deal. It can create bumps and things like that. But you still need to do your due diligence. And also a key message of the mouse is that you want to take care of issues while they're small, not leave them and ignore them so that they grow into a big surprise later on. Okay, so this is a key message with the mouse. So just putting this out there. There's a lot of enthusiasm, momentum, but maybe as you move forward, some things need to be ironed out, and that is fine. In the top, we have the beautiful tree, a card of growth and evolution. And we see it with the book, which is great for wisdom. We see it with the anchor, which is great for a strong, solid foundation. And the road before it, which tells me that you're pursuing this path and growing in it. Of course, it's the beautiful sun that shines its light on this. All of these are lovely as well. But the sun really adds that positive message. So you're definitely on a path of growth and success. And you definitely want to align with this sense of alignment. Again, the sun is central to your reading, and what is meant for you now is a whole lot of positivity and hopefully a whole lot of wish fulfillment. Here's the exciting fish in the left hand small diamond. Obviously with the sun it's beautiful, and with the road and letter, I really think again here you could be going into some business deals or some opportunities in one way or other. And so these are lovely cards that bring offers and prosperity. Yes, the letter ties into the mouse, which ties into the book. So again, the deal or the fine print or the agreement, whatever format it takes, might have some gaps or some things that need to be worked on, but certainly not enough to overwhelm the sun and all of the beautiful messages that we see through the main lines. And the cross points to, again, this important direction that seems to be, materializing, also some choices that you need to make. The ring on the right hand side is another nice message here, because the ring is a card of commitments. So it seems to me, despite any issues brought by the mouse, it sounds like you're going to go ahead and move forward with this. The sun and ship are lovely, and they really engage your ambition. So I think you're going to go for this. It looks like it's a lovely opportunity with just a few negatives that I think are going to be solved. And like we said, we read this as part of the portrait. The sun, mouse, ship, yes, a bit like with the rider and mouse, there can be some bumps in the path, but again, the ring being a card of commitment, and of course the beautiful sun in the center of everything, really sizes down the mouse. So these are some really nice messages, really bringing prosperity and wish fulfillment, and that is what is meant for you. So let's now wrap up with the diamonds. We have an inner diamond, which connects the 4 central cards of the 4 diamonds. A really awesome spread. Honestly, you've got to try it. And the outer diamond that connects all of these cards. So the fish with the tree ring and rider, this is lovely. This sounds like your relationships pay off, customers pay off, you have good connections, you are engaged in projects that help you grow financially. Really nice cards. In terms of a personal relationship, like I said, there is a strong connection. It's moving forward. The tree and ring suggest that the bond is growing. The rider moving forward, and like I said, the fish has a strong physical element, so there can be quite a lot of chemistry here. So very nice for your commitments and your engagements. And I would say in terms of the practical financial side, prioritize this side of your life. You want to make sure that what you're doing is contributing to your bottom line. And the outer diamond, we have the cross with the road, anchor, book, and ship. And in the bottom, we have the letter, woman, and mouse. So these are lovely cards for committing to this path. You could be at crossroads. Okay, this could be a juncture where you need to make a decision. And we said this earlier when we read the central row. And the anchor with the road encourages you to stick with this change and this path. And even though there are some unknown factors, as we see with the book, I think you're still moving forward with it. The ship is the card that is at the right, and it is very much a card of movement and ambition. So I think you are on the right track once you make this decision to pursue this path of prosperity. Even if you don't have all the answers, it's looking great. I have to say that the book is also great for, like I think I said earlier, the writing, research, learning, teaching, all of these areas that involve knowledge are highlighted. So if you're working on these projects, they could pick up really well. And also, like I said, by extension, it could be a card of creativity. So you could be in for a lot of positive expressions. Now, the letter mouse and letter woman and mouse, a little bit challenging here. Despite the very beautiful messages that we see with the woman, we do have her with the mouse. So there can be some issues, maybe with the relationship, or, I think these are the regular bumps that you need to work through. The cross with the letter into the woman, mouse, and ship, I think this has to do with the offer or the opportunity, or perhaps some communications in this regard. And again, the mouse is a few bumps. It's not a huge deal if you take care of it while things are small. And we have the ship on the other side of it, which helps you sail through. So I think it's going to be important to clarify communications. I think certainly with the sun, which is a card of light, you need to get into the details and bring everything out into the open so everything is clear. And so if there are doubts or question marks, these things need to be ironed out. And if it means you have to talk to this person or some people who are involved in this, then you have to do that. But otherwise, this is a very beautiful spread with the beautiful sun in the middle. And so you are meant to enjoy some very beautiful energies over the coming short phase now, or shortly, or whatever was the time horizon you wanted to define. There is a strong sense of prosperity, a good sense of connection, ambitions and growth and learning. And you really need to focus on your path, and you need to focus on your personal evolution. In terms of relationships, I also think they do well. There seems to be just a few things to be ironed out, and that's fine. But I think you also want to be open to adventure when it comes to these relationships, because they're kind of warm, and there's a good connection here and a lot of chemistry, which I think is nice and could be fun. So these are some really nice cards. So just one more time, you are meant to enjoy a lot of positive energy and a lot of success and wish fulfillment. So I just want to encourage you to be open to this, and also to put in the work that will pay off, and be open to these connections and these adventures. Let me know what you make of this lovely diamond. I look forward to your thoughts. I really would like to know how you resonated with this, and maybe come back, to enlighten me as to what unfolded for you. But again, I want to remind you that you always have a part to play. Okay, so do your affirmations and do the work. And hopefully you'll enjoy all of this prosperity and these wonderful relations. Thank you very much for tuning in. Very best of luck. And until next time, take very good care of yourself.